The smile on Xiao Yan's face was slowly withdrawn after storing the many energy cores into his storage ring. His eyes were grave as he looked at the crystal wall in front of him. At this moment, one could see some wiggling insect figures embedded in the crystal wall. Wave after wave of liquid energy continued to seep out of the wall, after which it solidified and adhered to the crystal wall. "You too. I shall leave the sides to the both of you." Xiao Yan turned his head and spoke to Huaji and Yao Xingji. Huaji nodded when she heard his words. On the other hand, Yao Xingji merely glanced at Xiao Yan. Although he did not say anything, it was obvious that he was a little displeased in his heart that Xiao Yan was issuing orders. Qi. Yao Xingji withdrew his eyes. He moved his hands and a cluster of pale black flames surfaced above his palm. A strange wind sound vaguely whistled when the flame materialized. One would feel an unusual irritation when this wind sound was transmitted into one's ears. It was as though this kind of unusual sound could stir one's emotions. This is... All the eyes present slide over when they saw the pale black heavenly flame in Yao Xingji's hands. Their eyes were a little surprised. Something like a heavenly flame was far too rare. Even though they were members of the ancient clans, they could not simply see them just because they wanted to. 9 Serene Wind Flame, ranked 10th on the Heavenly Flame ranking. The corner of Yao Xingji's mouth was involuntarily lifted when he saw everyone's surprised eyes. He smiled faintly and introduced the flame. 9 Serene Wind Flame. Xiao Yan's eyes also paused on this black flame. Being an alchemist, he had naturally heard of this thing. All heavenly flames formed in an extremely bizarre. An example was the 3,000 burning flame, which was formed within the empty realm. This 9 Serene Wind Flame, on the other hand, was born from an endlessly deep abyss. Dark wind never ceased blowing all year round in that place. Even an ordinary elite Dozun would not dare to venture into it. This so-called 9 Serene Wind Flame was formed with the intense wind. One would not only require luck to obtain this 9 Serene Wind Flame. There was still a need to possess an extremely powerful strength. Based on Xiao Yan's guess, the price that the Yao clan had to pay to obtain this heavenly flame was not small. Puff! A slight noise suddenly appeared when everyone's eyes had gathered on the 9 Serene Wind Flame on Yao Xingji's hand. A deep red color slowly glowed within the crystal tunnel. Many eyes looked in the direction of the light, only to see a cluster of deep red bewitching flames slowly rising on a hand. The flame had formed numerous red lotus shapes. Following the appearance of this deep red flame, the 9 Serene Wind Flame on Yao Xingji's hand became a little dimmer. Even the whistling wind had been greatly diminished. Yao Xingji's face involuntarily twitched when he saw his own heavenly flame acting like this. Although he felt a little displeased, he could do nothing about it. The Red Lotus-y flame was ranked 2 places higher than his 9 Serene Wind Flame. There was naturally a gap between the two of them. TSK. I think that this should be the Yin clan's Red Lotus-y flame, right? Gu Qingyang looked at the heavenly flame in Huaji's hand. He could not help but smile and ask a clarifying question. "I." Hua tilted her head, but her pretty eyes shifted to Xiao Yan. Her eyes contained a strange feeling. Xiao Yan involuntarily smiled when he saw Huaji's provoking eyes. This lady usually kept very quiet. However, it was unexpected that she would appear this wild when it came to something related to the heavenly flames. After exhaling gently, Xiao Yan gently clenched his hand. Threads of different colored flames seeped from his finger. They gathered together and turned into a cluster of purple-brown flames with a strand of a dense whiteness in it. The flame churned and numerous dragon fire seedlings continued to rise from within the flame. There was a vague dragon roar being emitted. Roar! The red lotuses above the red lotus-y flame on Huaji's hand began to fluctuate when the heavenly flame in Xiao Yan's hand appeared. It felt as though it had become illusory. On the other side, the 9 serene wind flame on Yao Xingji's hand, which had already become somewhat dim after being suppressed by the red lotus yi flame, had become even dimmer. Even the whistling wind being emitted from it had completely disappeared. Although your heavenly flames ranking is not ranked among the top, your heavenly flame is comparable to that of the top 6 heavenly flames after your merger. However, you are likely the first since ancient times to perform the crazy act of merging heavenly flames. Hua Ya's pretty eyes revealed a fluctuation within them. A low and enchanting voice was emitted from under her veil. Xiao Yin was non-committal toward these words. Merging heavenly flames might appear crazy, but it was not impossible. These words spoken, as if he was the first to merge heavenly flames, were likely untrue. At the very least, the owner who created the mysterious Qi method called the Flame Mantra had merged heavenly flames. All right, we are pressed for time. Let's act now. Xiao Yin did not have time to discuss the matter of merging heavenly flames with Hua Ji. After seeing that the other two had summoned their heavenly flames, Xiao Yin took a couple of steps forward and stopped in front of the crystal wall. He spoke in a deep voice. Everyone should follow close. Do not get left behind. The heavenly flame in Xiao Yan's hand suddenly soared when his voice appeared. It began to fiercely burn as a deafening dragon roared. A purple-brown dragon rushed out of the flame. It ruthlessly collided with the thick crystal wall. Sharp dragon claws danced as the crystal wall burst apart, forming a large hole. Follow me. The tail of the fire dragon was connected to Xiao Yan's hand. He sternly cried out and violently stomped his foot on the ground. His body swiftly charged forward. Gu Qingyang and the rest followed close behind him. What great flame control ability! Surprise flashed across Hua Ji's pretty eyes when she saw Xiao Yin transform the flame into a fire dragon which began to open the crystal walls. She swiftly followed, and the deep red flame in her hand swept out at the same time and covered the crystal wall to the left. Its frighteningly high temperature quickly slowed the speed of the closing crystal wall. Yao Xingji on the other side had also begun to work. Although he was a little displeased that Xiao Yin was in command, the most important thing now was his life. He could be at odds with everyone, but he could not be at odds with his own life. Hence, he had also put in all his effort when he acted. The fire dragon whistled and rushed forward within the crystal wall. The frightening temperature had completely incinerated the ancient devouring insects hidden in the wall from some distance away. Despite this being the case, the ancient devouring insects continued to surge over like moths attracted to a flame. The enormous energy that seeped out also posed quite a great obstruction to Xiao Yin. Bang, bang, bang. Explosions continued to be heard within the crystal wall. The advancement speed of Xiao Yan's group had become much faster. This kind of exhaustion is really too frightening. While his body was swiftly advancing, Xiao Yan also sensed the dou qi within his body seeping out like floodwater. His eyes had become much more solemn as he clenched his hand. A bag appeared in it. However, he did not take anything out. Instead, he grabbed the bag, circulated his qi method, and swiftly absorbed the energy within the energy cores. After which, he poured it into the body of the fire dragon in front, which was doing its best to open the crystal wall. How much further is it? The expressions of Gu Qingyang and the rest behind had become grave when they saw Xiao Yin devouring energy cores like a whale devouring plankton. The crystal wall was extremely hard, and the ancient devouring insects were blocking him. Even though Xiao Yin possessed a heavenly flame, it was still not as easy as he had imagined. It will take another half an hour or so before we will break through the light curtain, that silver-robed man mused. Gu Qingyang slightly nods. All he could do was hope that Xiao Yin could endure. Ferocious explosions occurred along the way. The rumbling sound did not cease, and the atmosphere of the tunnel was quite tense. Their hearts would involuntarily pound each time they saw Xiao Yin absorb the energy cores one bag at a time. This kind of exhaustion was really too frightening. Bang! The fire dragon whistled and heavily collided with the crystal wall. Crystals shot in all directions as Xiao Yan's feet slowed. He spoke in a deep voice. There is no more energy cores. The faces of quite a number of people twitched when they heard his words. Gu Qingyang mused for a moment and swiftly took out a bright energy core. He handed it to Xiao Yan. This is a 9-star energy core. I only have one. It's not enough. Xiao Yan received it without any hesitation, but he still shook his head. 10% of the dou qi within his body was exhausted every meter they advanced. A 9-star energy core might be powerful, but it was still not enough to support them through the light curtain. I also have one here. Huaxian hesitated for a moment before taking out another 9-star energy core. Give me another 3 of them. Xiao Yan exhaled and called on everyone. Everyone became quiet when they heard his words. After all, a 9-star energy core was a precious thing. Ugh, if we end up dying here, possessing many energy cores will be pointless. That man from the Lei clan sighed. He flicked his finger and an energy core shot into Xiao Yan's hand. In that case, I will trouble brother Xiao Yan. The 2 large men from the Shi clan faced each other before swiftly handing an energy core to Xiao Yan. Everyone's eyes involuntarily landed upon the Hunya duo at the back after the Shi clan handed over their energy core. Hunya's eyelids twitched when he saw their gazes. At this moment, he also understood that his words were useless. All he could do was clench his teeth, take out an energy core, and toss it to Xiao Yan. In order to obtain this 9-star energy core, Hunli and him had put in a lot of effort for a prolonged period of time. It was unexpected that they would now have to hand it to a person that they did not see eye to eye with. Xiao Yan held the 5 9-star energy cores in his hand and slowly sighed. A punch was thrown out. The fire glow on the fire dragon in front of him suddenly soared. It transformed into a fire figure that instantly penetrated through layer after layer of wall like a thunderbolt. Xiao Yan's group swiftly followed it from behind. This kind of all-out forward charge continued for nearly half an hour. The fire glow in the fire dragon finally began to gradually dim. We are about to exit. Xiao Yan gave a low cry as he observed the dimming fire dragon. He lifted his head and looked at the emerald-like crystal wall in front of him. Densely packed ancient devouring insects had covered their trail. Only by charging forward would they be able to truly enter the 3rd level of the heavenly tomb. Huh? This is... Xiao Yan's eyes drifted just as the fire dragon was about to violently collide with the emerald wall. They focused on something in the middle of that crystal wall. There was a fist-sized creature emitting a pale red light at that spot. Looking from a distance, it appeared just like an insect cocoon. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the thing that appeared like an insect before swiftly withdrawing them. The current him did not have much time to waste. The crystal wall here seems to be exceptionally hard. Even its color is even denser than what we have seen before. Xiao Yan's eyes revealed an expression of deep thought. He immediately inhaled a deep breath of air. After taking a step forward, his body merged with the fire dragon. He swung his right fist and a hot whistle buzzed within the tunnel in an ear-piercing manner. Bang! Xiao Yan's right fist swiftly merged with the fire dragon, after which it was suddenly thrown forward and ruthlessly smashed into the emerald wall. A low and deep explosion suddenly resounded as intense rippling forces began to swiftly spread from Xiao Yan's fist, causing the tunnel to shake. Crack! A tiny crack line began to explode in the crystal wall in front of everyone's anxious eyes. This crack line began to rapidly spread. Finally, it emitted a bang in front of everyone's joyous eyes and exploded. Xiao Yan's hand suddenly grabbed at the crystal chips, flying in all directions when the crystal wall burst apart. A warm jade-like thing landed in his hand. At this moment, Xiao Yan did not pay too much attention to it. He put it into his storage ring. Let's go. Xiao Yan's feet stomped on the ground after shattering the last crystal wall. His body took the lead to rush forward. Behind him, Gu Qingyang and the rest, who had already prepared, followed close behind as they charged towards the enormous hole that Xiao Yan had created. Xiao Yan was extremely quick. Within the blink of an eye, he had already charged out of the tunnel, after which an endless gray land appeared in his sight. This land was extremely vast. One could not see a boundary at a glance. There was also not a dense energy fog lingering over the ground. When Xiao Yan's group stood here, they were able to sense wave after wave of pure energy seeping into their bodies from under their feet. This kind of discovery caused everyone to feel stunned. A joy that could not be hidden quickly surged onto their faces. The third level of the heavenly tomb was indeed far from what the previous two levels could compare with. With this kind of energy pouring in, it was likely that they would be able to obtain a good training effect, even if they did not go and search for energy cores. Is this the third level of the heavenly tomb? The group had a joyous face as they looked around them. The feeling of having been reborn after a disaster caused everyone's heart to sigh in relief. Buzz buzz. While everyone was sighing in relief, the enormous light curtain behind, which seemed to be connected to the horizon, suddenly emitted an intense buzzing sound. This scene caused Xiao Yan's group to feel shocked. Their bodies began to rapidly pull back. Buzz buzz. While Xiao Yan's group was pulling back, wave after wave of a snow-white torrent rushed over to them with lightning-like speed. The wave was accompanied by a loud buzzing sound. Ancient devouring insects. They have come chasing after us. The expressions of Gu Qingyang and the rest immediately changed when they saw this wave. Their bodies began to hurriedly withdraw. Buzz buzz. The white torrent surged out in all directions. However, the flying bodies of ancient devouring insects came to a sudden halt soon after they had charged out of the energy wall. A puff could be heard as they turned into a cluster of white powder that scattered in front of everyone's stunned eyes. Puff, puff, puff. After 1 minute, a continuous stream of ancient devouring insects began to charge out of the tunnel without being afraid of death. However, they were repelled by a mysterious strength when they charged 10 feet away from the light curtain. Suddenly, they burst into white powder. In the end, the powder accumulated in front of the energy wall until it was a couple of meters high. These ancient devouring insects, what are they doing? Everyone was stunned as they watched these ancient devouring insects continuously charge out despite clearly knowing that only death waited for them. All of them began to frown. Could it be that they do not wish for us to escape? A person bitterly laughed and gave a suggestion. They would not go all out if their intention was to not allow us to escape. They are committing suicide, and it is a pointless suicide. Gu Qingyang shook his head and spoke with knit brows. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's heart while everyone was pondering what was happening with some doubt. His finger rubbed his storage ring without anyone noticing. Could it be related to the thing that he had grabbed from the crystal wall? Buzz buzz. The ancient devouring insect's suicidal charge continued for nearly 10 minutes. The white powder covered the energy wall in a thick layer. However, it was fortunate that this kind of suicide did not continue on. After a countless number of ancient devouring insects had been turned to dust, the charging speed finally slowed before completely disappearing. Clearly, this useless suicide had finally caused them to give up. Let's go. Gu Qingyang shook his head and spoke after seeing these ancient devouring insects shrink back into the crystal wall. Xiao Yan also recovered when he heard his words. Suddenly, he turned his head and swept it around. Then he began to frown because he had discovered that Han Ye's group had already fled while everyone was stunned by the wild suicide of the ancient devouring insects earlier. Those two fellows are really cunning. Sun Er had also discovered that the two people had disappeared. She bunched up her brows and commented, "Haha, brother Xiao, it is all thanks to you this time around. Since we have reached the third level, the two of us shall not continue to stand here for long. We will find a place to train. After which, we will quietly wait for 3 years to be up." Huaxian cupped his hands to Xiao and spoke with a smile. Xiao also grinned and nodded. He cupped his hands in return and said, "In that case, I wish brother Huaxian a peaceful journey. Goodbye. See you when 3 years are up." Huaxian laughed. After which, he led Huaji into the distance. After Huaxian, the Shi clan and the Lei clan said their goodbyes and left. Yao Xingji merely glanced at Xiao before flinging his sleeves and leading that bewitching lady from the Yao clan away without saying any polite words. Within a short couple of minutes, this place had become empty after many people left. Only Xiao group still remained. "Sun Er, where are the both of you going?" Gu Qingyang looked at the two, mused for a moment, and finally asked about their plans. "Is big brother Qingyang still not aware of where we are going?" Sun Er faintly smiled and replied. Gu Qingyang helplessly shook his head when he heard this. He looked at Xiao and said, "You really intend to visit Xiao Xin's tomb? That place is in the deepest regions of the heavenly tomb. It is extremely easy to find 8 or 9-star energy bodies there. It is still fine if you meet 1 or 2 of them. If there are too many, it will be extremely dangerous. Moreover, there might even be Do Shang class energy bodies in the deepest regions. You might really end up dying if you meet them." Xiao nodded and said, "I know." Gu Qingyang felt somewhat helpless when he saw that Xiao had no intention of giving up. He hesitated for a moment before turning his head to look at the silver-robed man, Gu Zhan, and that burly man. He inquired, "What plans do all of you have? Are you going to randomly find a place and train for 3 years? Do you think that is possible?" Before we entered the heavenly tomb, I was informed by Elder Tong Xian to protect Sun Er. I think that I am likely not the only one who has received such an instruction. Gu Zhan lifted his head and smiled as he replied, "Me too." The silver-robed man shrugged his shoulder, after which he looked at Xiao and laughed. "I have not been able to introduce myself. I am Gu Hua, the second general of the Black Submerged Army. In the past, I had been unaware of why Sun Er had chosen you. Now that I look at it, I have perhaps obtained some answers. I have also received that order." The burly-looking man, who appeared a little simple and honest, laughed. "Gu Xing, third commander of the Black Submerged Army, we have you to thank for back there?" Xiao smiled and cupped his hands together. Gu Qingyang and the other 2 generals were not filled with enmity, especially after the events within the light curtain. They were clearly a little friendlier to him. Hence, Xiao did not treat the 3 of them in a cold and indifferent manner. "Looks like this is the case for everyone." Gu Qingyang spread his hands and laughed. "Since this is the case, let's travel together. With the few of us joining hands, nothing unexpected should happen as long as we do not meet any Do Shang class energy bodies. Whether you will be able to enter Xiao Xin's tomb will all depend on you. The experts from our Gu clan once reached that place. However, we do not have a way in. No matter what method we tried, we were unable to enter. Therefore, you should be mentally prepared. Perhaps your ancestor does not want anyone to enter and disturb him." Xiao slightly grinned. He nodded and said, "My instincts tell me that I will likely gain something there." "Hopefully." Gu Qingyang was unconcerned. He lifted his head and glanced over the grayish-brown land. After which, he exhaled and smiled as he said, "In that case, we should get moving. I really wish to see just how frightening the 3rd level of the heavenly tomb is." Let's get moving." Xiao also laughed. After which, he exchanged glances with Sun Er. Subsequently, their toes pressed on the ground and their figures turned into 2 rays of light that took the lead as they swiftly rushed to the 3rd level. Gu Qingyang and the 3 others swiftly followed behind. two black figures slowly appeared a great distance from Xiao Yan's group. They were Hunya and Hunli, who had fled long ago. Gu Qingyang's group has joined Xiao Yin and Sun Er. Hunli turned his head, looked into the distance, and made a comment. Together, huh? It's just as well. It will save us some trouble when the time comes. Hunya indifferently nodded. A brutal expression flashed across his lowered eyes. Xiao Yin, the next time we meet will be the time when we take your life. Just you wait. A faint energy fog slowly drifted with the breeze above a desolate grayish-brown land. The hazy world caused one to feel an additional mysteriousness. It appeared that even the concept of time was lost to this quiet world. A couple of figures were seated around a bonfire at a certain spot within this land. The flame lit up the faces of the few of them. They were Xiao Yin and Sun Er's group. However, they appear to be even closer at this moment than in the past. If I have guessed correctly, we should be reaching the deepest parts of the third region. If we are still going to travel tomorrow, all of us should be a little more careful. The deepest parts of the third level are the most dangerous place within the heavenly tomb. Gu Qingyang lifted his head, glanced at the dim region around them, and spoke with a smile. We have not met anyone else during these 3 months. It looks like they have found spots to quietly train, Sun Er softly commented. Xiao Yin slowly nodded. 3 months had passed since they had entered the third level. During these 3 months, their group had been hurrying to the deepest parts of the heavenly tomb. However, due to some powerful energy bodies blocking them along the way, they were finding it difficult to travel. Fortunately, the few of them had successfully charged in after joining hands. Ugh, this heavenly tomb is indeed not as simple as I had imagined. The last time, I had nearly lost my life. Gu Hua randomly tossed the tree branch beside him into the pile of fire and helplessly lamented. There was a scar on his face. It was left behind when their group had met with a group of energy bodies with an average strength of 8 stars. That battle was miserable to the point of exceeding everyone's expectations. Fortunately, no deaths had occurred despite them suffering some injuries. Further in will be even more troublesome than what we have met with before. Therefore, everyone should be mentally prepared. Guzhen grinned as he spoke. Allow me to continue the remaining journey. Xiao Yin hesitated for a moment before speaking. Even with the 6 of them joining hands, it was quite difficult for them to survive. If they were to enter the deepest regions, there was no telling just what kind of trouble they would end up meeting. After this period of living together with Gu Qingyang's group, Xiao Yin had formed a good impression of them. He did not want an accident to occur to them because of him. You should tell Sun Er these words, Gu Qingyang smiled and replied. We have already come this far, so let's not say such disheartening words. As long as we are careful, there will likely not be any problems. Sun Er's pretty eyes stared at Xiao Yin as she gently responded. Hopefully. Xiao Yin could only bitterly smile and nod his head when he heard her reply. After which, he lifted his eyes and looked into the grayish-dark distance. The far end was where his target was located. It appeared as though he could sense the blood within his body flowing at a much faster rate. A northwestern direction. There are traces of 4 energy bodies present there. 3 of them are around that of 8-star Do Zuns, while 1 is at the 9th star. Xiao Yan's shut eyes were slowly opened while he was behind a large rock. After which, he softly uttered this information to the group beside him. They had formally entered the deepest parts of the heavenly tomb. The 6 of them had involuntarily become cautious despite their strength. They carefully picked their paths as they traveled. Even when they met energy bodies they could easily deal with, they would deliberate before attacking. After all, the energy bodies in were too frightening. No one knew if they would end up attracting even more powerful energy bodies once a fight begun. At that time, the energy bodies would surround them. The price they would have to pay was no longer just some injuries. Gu Hua and Gu Zhan have already gone out to investigate. They should be returning soon. Gu Qingyang nodded and replied. Qi. Gu Qingyang's words had just sounded when two black figures adhered to the ground. They used the enormous stone and the shadows of some trees as cover before swiftly appearing beside Xiao Yan's group. They were Gu Hua and Gu Zhan, who had gone out to investigate. There are traces of activities by quite a number of energy bodies to the south and west, and we have also sensed some extremely powerful pressures. We cannot take these two routes. Gu Zhan and Gu Hua slowly sighed in relief before speaking. In that case, we can only head to the northwest, Xiao Yan frowned as he replied. The western direction also possesses an extremely powerful pressure. This pressure has surpassed that of an ordinary 9-star Dozun. However, there is still a gap to the Dosheng level. Sun Er suddenly whispered at this moment. Xiao Yan's group became quiet after hearing her words, stronger than a 9-star Dozun while weaker than an elite Dosheng. It seemed it should be at the Bansheng class. This was also an extremely troublesome existence. They were aware that the Bansheng energy bodies would possess many energy bodies guarding it. The Bansheng that they had met this time around only had 4 energy bodies around it. This was considered quite a small number. What should we do? None of the 3 directions are easy to charge through. However, the northwestern direction is a little easier. There are fewer energy bodies in that direction. It will not be easy to attract other energy bodies even if we end up fighting. If it is the other 2 areas, we will likely end up being surrounded once a battle erupts. Gu Hua surmised the situation. Xiao Yan revealed an expression contemplation. He exchanged glances with Gu Qingyang, and his eyes shifted to the northwest. Their only option now was to take this route. Let's get moving. Try to be careful. Do not disturb the Bansheng class energy body. Although the Bansheng energy core is extremely alluring, we cannot lose our lives because of it. Gu Qingyang softly sighed. Aye. Xiao Yan also slowly nodded, after which he exchanged looks with Sun Er. His body moved, and he transformed into a blurry figure that carefully rushed to the deepest parts of the heavenly tomb. Gu Qingyang and the rest also followed behind. Their careful manner appeared to be a little comical. The group of them quietly walked for 1,000 feet within the energy fog before their footsteps slowly came to a halt. 4 energy bodies were seated on a large rock a short distance in front. The figure at the middle appeared to be exceptionally powerful. It was a 9-star energy body. Xiao Yan's eyes were narrowed as they swept over these 4 energy bodies, after which he turned and looked at Gu Qingyang's group. They quietly made some hand gestures. After a couple of months of joining hands, the coordination between them had already become quite good. The group nodded when they saw Xiao Yan's hand gesture. Their bodies slowly separated. Attack! Xiao Yan suddenly waved his hand when he saw that everyone was awaiting orders. At the same time, his body suddenly rushed forward. Within a flash, he had appeared in front of an 8-star energy body. His fist, which contained a dense purple-brown flame, violently penetrated the energy body. It shattered the body into nothingness in an instant. Bang! When Xiao Yan's lightning-like attack struck the 8-star energy body, the remaining 2 figures also burst apart. These energy bodies might be at the 8-star level, but their actual strength was not at this level. Otherwise, they would not have been able to win. Roar! That 9-star energy body appeared to have sensed something when the 3 energy bodies were killed. It suddenly opened both of its eyes. However, a furious roar had just been emitted from its mouth when 4 figures surrounded him in a triangular A-B formation. A mighty doqi swiftly surged, after which they turned into lightning that ruthlessly struck this 9-star energy body. Qi. Faced with the combined attacks of Gu Qingyang's group, this 9-star energy body had just emitted a roar when a puff sound appeared, and it was transformed into nothing. A bright energy core dropped from it. ABD Sun Er swiftly grabbed it. The group faced each other and smiled when they saw that their sneak attack had succeeded. After which, they swiftly suppressed their voices because of Xiao Yan's hand signal and then quickly rushed into the distance. The subsequent journey was smoother after they killed those 4 energy bodies. However, this smoothness did not continue for long. Xiao Yan's group's expressions had gradually become more solemn because they had began to sense a pressure slowly spreading from a short distance in front of them. Ban Sheng. The brows of Xiao Yan's group were knit when they sensed this kind of pressure. Their speed also gradually slowed. If they were unable to pass through this obstruction, they would need to cease mentioning Xiao Xin's tomb. Everyone, be careful, Xiao Yan softly said. He once again walked some distance forward. His body was hidden in the shadows of a large rock. His eyes narrowed as he looked forward. The area where Xiao Yan's sight could reach was covered by an energy fog. This energy fog was not dense. A gust of wind blew over and caused the fog to scatter. Following the scattering of this energy fog, a 1,000-foot-tall stone mountain suddenly appeared in view. Xiao Yan's group's eyes locked on the top of the mountain when it appeared. That place possessed an enormous stone seat. A figure was quietly sat on it. A dark red scimitar had been placed in front of him, and a dense bloody scent radiated from the large scimitar. It appeared like the fog that had lingered over this mountain. What an overbearing aura! The expressions of Xiao Yan's group slowly became solemn when they sensed the overbearing aura that was spreading from those figures. Was this the energy body that had reached the Banshang class? It was indeed powerful. While Xiao Yan's group wore solemn expressions, that figure on the enormous stone mountain suddenly got up, and a bloody scent suddenly surged. We have been discovered. There is no need to hide. Be careful. Xiao Yan gently exhaled when he saw the energy body stand. His heart was unafraid as a fiery heat surged within it. Fighting an elite Banshang, this would be the first time in his life. A 4-figure triangle? Well, one corner might have 2 people.